unique. So in that sense, whatever angle you're looking at it, like you can bend the information or tips which I have here, you can bend it from left to right, from top to bottom. So there's no, unique rule. There's always a flexible area for everything. But I don't know. Let's get started. I think like we waited
Yes,
for
we
some
are
time.
online. We are
Yeah,
recorded. So Argo, you can start.
nice. I will share my screen as well, so we can have a talk about things. Can you see this, right? Okay. So I kind of have the slides prepared in a different order maybe than the heading in the calendar was today, but overall it's the same thing. So I'm covering a bit more than actually the heading would allow us to really cover. And that's for the reason that each and every time I do these courses, or when it comes to marketing and sales and how communication combine those things, I kind of see that there's so much more that the team should know. So that's the reason why I've put a lot of more things into this to make it more, efficient when we use the time here. And I'm trying to give you some hints and tips on those things as well. But going forward with all this, as we talked last time, I don't know how many of you were there, how many not. My name is Argo. I'm from Team Prototron, also a co-founder in the concept agency, and I'm doing a lot of visiting CMOs. So I'm the person usually trying to direct companies' marketing and communication as well. Plus, I do startup mentoring. So you guys are a big chunk of my everyday life as well. Trying to get you on the right path and giving you the good connections and good ideas how to move your idea to the next phase. But again, last time we used the same quote in the slides as well. So for those who weren't there, maybe it's something new. For those who were, let's repeat one more time. So when we do marketing, again, as we talked, it's not about the stuff that you actually make. The stuff might be good, but if the story is weak, there's no marketing behind it. So you have to market the story of your idea or your product. So this is the reason why the quote is here. It's something that I actually truly strongly believe in, because I can see in my everyday, work that without a story behind a campaign or a product or a service, it's really hard to make it memorable for those who should be the customers on the other side. So that's one of the key aspects in many of my actually slides. So with this presentation as well, you're going to see storytelling pop in different places more than once. So be prepared for that one as well. But first things first, last time I was kind of asking the question, how many of you have a brand name or something similar to that? So let's use this as basis to move on with how to make sales and marketing better and go over the details how to create the brand. Because in many cases, startups usually have a name for the idea, but the brand comes in a later phase, or in some cases, there's already a brand name in the beginning, but still it's good to know how to actually create it so that it will last, it has sense in it, and so that the customers actually can relate to it or feel it. That's, I guess, one of the most important things probably. So everyone knows that the brand is like a business card, right? It tells basically a lot about who you are. In some cases, you use information about your service area or expertise already in the brand name. But in some cases, when you don't, you still want the brand to kind of resemble something that you do. And the first topic which we are trying to cover in that sense is the what and for who. And when we were talking about last time the storytelling part and how to create it and how to communicate yourself, then the question, what am I doing it for and for who am I presenting it to, comes in when you create the brand as well. So it really actually needs to project all the things that you really want to present about yourself. It's really, really important. And I've kind of listed out 4 questions that I usually ask myself when somebody comes to me and says, listen, I need to create a new brand. I'm like, okay, so let's start with the beginning. Why are you creating it? There should be a purpose to it. Making money usually doesn't last long in most of the cases, not in all cases, but in most of the cases. So there should be a reason why you are creating the brand. And when you write it down, and I really strongly suggest you use the old time, pen and paper solution to write those things down, because that makes you analyze the data that you write down a bit more. So to write down the answer to the question, like, why am I creating my brand for? The second thing is, to who am I creating it for? When we were talking about storytelling last time, I kind of, jumped into the subject that in some cases companies say that, yeah, the whole country is basically my customer, or everyone in the country is my customer. That's never the case, like never the case. Good example, for instance, is milk is a product that probably all the people should use or can use, right? But what if you are lactose intolerant? You can't use regular milk. So there's again like definition in the widespread products. So your product as well should be always kind of aimed towards somebody, right? It can't be for everyone. It has to be for someone a bit more specifically. So asking yourself, to who am I creating it for, can help you answer a lot about your brand as well. Like, okay, what my brand should look like. If it's a business, then the outcome of the brand and the feeling should be totally different, rather than you're a B2C brand. The feeling's kind of, different. One should be a bit more corporate looking like, and the other one should be more open and suitable for masses in that sense. Thirdly, the question should be, what exactly is my offer? I kind of get that when you are talking about the brand, and the offer is like something you come to in the later words process, but try to figure out like what what does the brand have to offer except for the product, but what else? What's more? And try to map out all the things that the brand can offer. And then you can get an overview like how deep you can go with the brand. If you need to show, some soft touch in soft values, should you be showing, some core values from the mission part? So this helps to map out a lot of things that you might have in your unconscious, let's say, mind, understanding what you want it to look like, but it helps you kind of get those things out. And last but not least is, what is my unique value? So what's the USP? What's your what, basically? And those 4 questions can get quite a long way to go when it comes to brand creation. So I kind of suggest always to physically write those answers down and start to analyze those things through. And then you can already, probably what happens usually is, first things first, you get some first ideas that, oh, my brand name should be this and that. If you answer those 4 questions, and on the parallel you put the brand name, then try to, logically feel if the brand feels like the answers you wrote down. So that's, emotional testing, whether it feels right or it doesn't feel right. And that helps you generate the brand name or the brand visuals and the afterwards as well. I really, really want to point out that a brand is not only a logo. In so many cases, I've seen that companies really define themselves only by a logo. Even Nike, who has a so known logo, doesn't use it solely, but they always write something next to it. Yes, it can be used in certain marketing activities, but in many, many cases, usually there's just do it or something else added towards it. It's like maybe 5% of the time it's standing alone, but 95% of the time it has something next to it that really, defines the brand a bit more than the logo. So I tried to write down a solution, like, or a description of what a brand is. And I kind of got this answer that it's a complex solution. It actually starts from logo, which is the first visual thing that you can see when you're a customer, right? But it comes down to the tone of voice. And under tone of voice, I mean like the tone of voice, how you post on social media, the tone of voice, how you answer the phone, how you write emails, how you present your information. That's the tone of voice. And it goes to the tone of voice. And then there's this emotional part that actually is, building up behind all of your communication. So that's something that comes over time, but it's also a part of a brand. And if I kind of think back, then to me, actually, when I think about large, let's say, companies, I always associate some kind of emotions with them. And usually the ones that I don't have strong feelings with are the ones that I don't choose at first. And then there are the ones that actually have emotional effect on me. And those are the ones that you want to be with, because those brands sell without having to, multiply their marketing efforts times 5, because there's emotional value behind it. To rest my own voice, quick question. Does anyone have a example of a brand who has a full package? Again, let's leave out Apple, let's leave out Nike, everyone big enough who has so much money that they can overflow the market. But let's talk about maybe medium size, small size companies that have this full package when you yourself kind of experience engagement with the brand or the content, that you feel like it's a whole package. So when you have
Cleveron.
something, open the mic, shoot.
It's Cleveron, I guess.
Cleveron. Okay. For those from Latvia, Cleveron basically offers package robot solutions, which we use to ship packages with our local, let's say, post operator. They use robotic solutions, and most probably most of us have been acquainted to those. Who else? No one?
Printify.
Okay. Why?
Well, they have this whole brand based around being fun and colorful and modern, and it's I don't know, it's like a fresh and exciting and like stereotypical designer kind of look.
Okay, so you kind of feel the vibes of the visuals and everything that's going next to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So in Latvia, there was a not very successful business case, but a very good brand. We had AirDog. I don't know if you know this one. The drone flying after the skiers, surfers. So the AirDog, it's like following drone after the sports. So they had really good brand, so associated with the extreme sports.
Okay, I've actually seen something like it on the web as well, and I was kind of checking it out. It was pretty cool when I saw the videos and how the feeling was like. Okay, so like in every local, let's say, market, there's always someone that touches us the most, and whatever it is, if it's big or small, it's always good to have an eye on those brands and to maybe make a note to self, like what is it about the brand that makes you feel good, and write down those small key items. And so when you generate your own brand, usually the best thing which I kind of do is that my first briefing with a client is usually starting with a question: tell me about one brand that makes you smile. And then we have this fun and open discussion about one brand or many brands, and they start telling me like, yeah, this makes me feel good, it's quality, it looks nice, it's got this nice touch to the tone of voice. And then I try to actually pinpoint out the keywords that the customer offers me, and then I know exactly what triggers my customer. So most probably what the customer wants when they generate the new brand is to make the same feeling as they get with a good brand. So you yourself have a lot of information about the things that make you feel good. So try to make good use of that information and revert that information into how your brand can be made the same way that it makes other people feel the same way. So it's backwards logic in some sense, but it's really good to use. It's simple, it doesn't take too much time, and you can actually pretty fast make good use of it in that case. So what I can say is that brand visibility nowadays is really everything. Basically, if you're not seen, you don't exist, and that's a fact. And it actually leads to active leads and success. Okay, there's a huge number of luck needed to be involved and being in the right place in the right time, as always. But being visible already gives you this multiplier, basically, so you can get a head start to being noticed or to getting these leads in and getting the path to success a bit shorter. And if you want to be visible, then you have to be sure that you have a solid foundation to make those things happen, like really, really happen. So last time we also talked about home, right? We talked about where home should be. What is home? And I kind of pointed out that you don't have to be present in each and every channel. So when you generate the brand, it's really important that here you as well analyze and think like where home should be. Should I have a Facebook page? Should I have a web page? Should I be in LinkedIn? Should I be in Instagram? I remember we talked about Twitter when we talked about Central Europe, right? So brand needs to have a solid foundation home. And when you generate a brand, try to already kind of think ahead. Okay, if I'm going to be most of the time present and visible in Facebook, then probably I would need something to really, light up myself and be shown. If I'm going to be gray in the background, shy against the wall, then probably in a society where, visuals and copywriting and everything else is highly, highly valued, I cannot be a brand who is pretty, gray. I have to have something to come out. Same goes for Instagram. LinkedIn probably is a bit laid back in that sense because it's corporate, at least somewhat corporate. Yeah, they're implementing stories and etc. But still, it's the mentality there is so much different. So you can give yourself a bit slack when it comes to the brand. And if you know that your main, position for home would be LinkedIn, then you can also ease up when it comes to the visuals of generating the brand or how the brand should be looking like. And web page, probably most of you have one that needs to be done. So the web page also kind of needs to be understood. Who's the target? Who am I doing it for? If it's going to be B2B, is it going to be B2C? What's the target to my web page? Should I have acquisition? Meaning, should I collect data, inquiries? Should it be awareness? What should it be? And that also determines a lot about the brand. If it's awareness, then you need to, show yourself a bit more. If it's acquisition and collecting data, then probably the focus would be, the copyright and getting the people submitting information to the right boxes rather than flashing and doing high-end animation and presenting yourself as I don't know who. So there's a huge difference in the logics behind that. And again, like somewhat we talked already last time about this, but I'm trying to, give you some other angles to this information so you understand what kind of logic goes behind generating a actual brand. And I'm really trying to give you some hints how I think when I'm generating a brand. So bear with me if something feels like already really similar to what we heard last time, but I'm trying to pop in a lot of things which we didn't talk about as well. So I really like to go over things. So let's go over the fact that you don't need to have a home in every possible channel, right? And try to determine from a test group or whatever you have at hand where the clients actually go to make inquiries, look for information, or most probably engage with companies like you. So that will save you a huge amount of time when it comes to generating the brand and positioning your homes. So huge importance goes to profiles. Okay, let's leave out web page right now, but let's talk about any kind of platforms that can host a social wise home. So when you make a profile, a huge mistake which is usually done is that it's left half done, basically. You generate it, you put some information to it, but you kind of, you don't finish the process. And that's something that nowadays, when we talk about, for example, customers who are at the age of, let's say, 16 to, I would say, even up to 30, they will go quickly, browse the information through. And if there's something missing, they won't engage. They won't interact with you. If you have a missing, contact, you don't have an email that they can click and, automatically a pop-up window comes with the email already open, then it takes time and maybe it's too much trouble. And when we talked before, nowadays, like everyone's in a hurry. I have too little time. I have to do everything fast. Probably the new agers don't have even time or attention to actually go full into the details, search or find out something. Maybe a personal but a good example is that I have a 20-year-old daughter. And when I tell her that, please, try to find out the information for yourself, the way she kind of, approaches profiles is like, if it's not there, if it's not like point blank in your face, she's like, I can't find it. And that's it, she quits. And that's like when you have enough of those clients who are in a younger generation gap, then you have to be just aware that this profile filling is really, really important, because you will have the dropouts and they will get too big. And one of the plus things is that the age up to 30 usually engages like this. If I see something that I like, I can buy it right now. I don't have any problems. I don't have to think too much. If I like it, I buy it. And that's the mentality that they usually have. When we are talking about, let's say, 30 plus, then okay, yes, there comes some consideration, and then I start to Google a bit, like what's the alternative, and can I get it, I don't know, cheaper from somewhere. But still, like when you don't have the full information on the profile, there's a high probability that you will lose the contact, and that means you lose a lead and you lose sales as well. Contacts need to be in a visible place everywhere, always. And that means that don't only fill out the forms that the portals give you. So you submit basically the information into the filling gaps, but you can also have additional information placed really on top of the profile head. So try to use those things for sure as well when we are talking about social medias. Highly important is also to understand that providing only just visual information or only just textual information is not going to work when it comes to marketing and sales. You need to have both things, and both things need to be good, because it's also proven that the attention span is so short that if you keep it only textual, then it's around 65% of people at first don't even bother to read the text through if there's more than 2 sentences. Like 2 sentences, how hard can it be, right? But it shows that 65% doesn't have the attention span. So it's, for me, it's aggravating, because my daily business is actually to generate content and make it really count. And every time I face myself with a moment where I have a product that cannot be put together in two sentences, basically, I'm like struggling like hell to think like, how the hell am I supposed to put it down in 2 sentences? But this is important for that reason, that when you try to define your service or your idea, in most cases, you should be able to write it down in 2 sentences. So it's going to be a hard struggle and a task. I guess some of you can manage it, but for let's say homework, try to test yourself. Can you write your idea down in 2 sentences? Try it. There's nothing to lose. Yeah, Ansari.
We have already this homework in our fit market sheets in Excel. We have a task
Nice.
1 sentence pitch of the product or service. We have already this task.
Okay, so 1 sentence, yeah, that can be a tough one. Usually I can already see that in some cases you leave out a lot of information, but plus 1 sentence gives you the ability to play a bit more. But yeah, 1 or 2 sentences is really good. If you can make those things happen, then try to implement that in your profiles as well. And usually when you get that 1 sentence, actually, for example, when you make a web page, the front page might already consist of logo plus that 1 sentence. So when the person comes to your landing page or lands in your home page, the first sentence should say already like 80% about you. It should say like, okay, I am here and the offer is this. If that 1 or 2 sentences already, clicks, then the person will scroll more and find out more. And I can see it from different analytics as well. When I do web page analyzing for new marketing projects, like the first thing I open up is Google Analytics. And like when I open it up, I can see like bounce rate going crazy, like 70%, 60%. Like, and when you open up the homepage, it's like da, 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 nothing there. So yeah, that's the reason why those 1 and 2 sentences are really, really good and helpful. And you can use it like basically all around in profiles, in your web page. So you can make really good use of those things. And input is also, a thing that you need to watch out for. We were last time talking about consistency, right? When you tell a story, when you do content creation, you should be consistent. So making a good foundation for the brand actually also means that you have to have consistent inputs. So updating your profiles, giving consistent inputs is highly valuable for the customers as well, because then they can see the brand value. It's not always the fact that, okay, when I go to Instagram and I can see a brand has 1,000 posts, that I can then my kind of first thought will be like, whoa, this brand is valuable. It doesn't always have to be like that. Of course, if the content is really good and if it's relevant in time, and I can see like they have really put some effort in it to generate 1,000 posts, which are quality posts, then I guess like there's no long thinking about whether or not to engage with the brand. You can already see that they are putting effort in, so that means there's value behind it. Because in many cases, usually those brands who have not so much value or who don't put focus on that value, they don't generate so much content, and customers are used to, nowadays when the story feature came to Instagram and Snapchat and everywhere else as well, what happened to the brains of people? Funny thing, when you generate the story, it's basically easy. You push the button, you talk a bit, and you do a post, right? Nothing really hard about that. You can talk, you can make fun, you can dance, you can eat, you can drink, you can sleep, you can do anything in a story. So the brain started to think that generating content is so easy. That means when you don't see much content or enough content on a profile, then it actually equals to little brand value or absolutely no brand value. And it's funny how one feature in social media has changed the understanding of what is enough, what is little, and what is normal. So when we talk, me and my fellow marketers, when we talk sometimes, we kind of, joke around and then talk about like, how are their statistics showing up and how much are they generating content and how are they putting focuses. And what everyone tells us is that basically they are doing, I wouldn't say none, but very little posts on the Facebook and Instagram wall, but they are putting much more effort in generating stories because they can do quantity there. And algorithms in social media show higher number of stories than they actually do of posts. So that's the reason why they actually focus on generating mass in storylines and then posting, 1 or 2 times a week. And that's enough, because the youngsters or the younger age will probably browse to the stories first and then go to check the profile, let's say, wall, to understand how many posts have been done. But now, drifting a bit aside to what we were talking, how many of you have actually generated personas? Hold on, let me open a better view for myself.
Ask again, please.
How many of you have generated a persona for your idea?
Only in my head.
Nice, Marika.
I have worked on user personas for Blabby.
Okay. Anyone else?
We have also.
Nice.
We have also.
Okay. So we get kind of 5 replies. But let's do so. Let's go over what persona is, just to be on the safe side, right? So that everyone kind of gets it clearly. A persona is basically, as heard before, it's the buyer or customer profile. Your average Mary or John or Mari or Tiit or whoever. That's the average customer who you are targeting and making your brand for, making your sales to, and directing your marketing to, right? So I wrote down the steps to generating for B2C. And last time I kind of, jumped in again to the B2B side, that at the end of the day, the decision maker in one business is a person. So you can direct your B2C marketing towards the person. And if it's, let's say, over hours, then probably next day when the marketing was done right, when he or she is at work, she will remember that, I saw that ad. I will double check that one out. So basically the logic can be used 2 ways, and you can use the logic here for B2C in order to target B2B as well. But let's go through some steps when we talk about this, right? First things first, know the customer. Confidence is really, really good. Like, totally, I agree that it's really, really good. But blind confidence is like really silent death in marketing and in sales as well. And kind of goes back to the topic when last time we were talking about the fact that, the whole country is my customer. That's blind confidence, and that basically is silent death to any brand or idea. So even, the consumer who or wherever they are, there's always a niche or some kind of segment who pops out. I brought you the milk example already before, but to put it again, like lactose intolerant people are not buying milk. So there's no point in saying that they're my customer as well. Unless they buy it for their kids or whoever, then yes, we can talk about that. But let's try to go into the personas and try to really get some stuff going on in here as well. So usually when we talk about personas, then the simple persona is basically whether it's, I see Simplex has hands up.
Yep, just a technical question. Some people at Slack are saying that they can't join the meeting. So two of them say that they are waiting. I don't know if they are still waiting to be let in to the meeting.
Not so sure about that one, but let me double check.
Okay.
Is the meeting link right? What they are using could be that, because it was quite confusing to find the right webinar link.
Okay. Let me double check. Nope. Right now, everyone is in who is in. I can double check, of course. Yanis. No, Yanis.
Sorry, my colleague couldn't join as well. And the link is pretty the same. The link is correct. But it's just saying that the host will let you in soon. but it does not actually.
Yeah, because I can see that the waiting room is actually totally empty. So it's pretty interesting why that's not working, because like there's 41 in and we have a couple only out.
At least one of the guys says on Slack that he went to watch the Facebook Live. So
Okay. So let me just double check. I know that Yanis is probably away. Yana, are you here? No? Okay, guys. I will take a quick second just to see if I can fix this and if I can forward one link to them as well. And then we can quickly continue with this. So let's do a quick coffee and toilet break, 2 minutes. Okay?
Okay.
Nice. Okay, so let's see if anyone can get in or if there's an issue still. I kind of see that Yuri sent the correct link and it should be okay, but yeah. If anything, we are still live on Facebook, so we can take it from there. And if there's anything, happening or we can't do it, then I have to ask Yanis to double check for next time so that we don't have the same issues. And hopefully then we will have these things covered as well. But we have...
I have a question.
Yes, Kaido, go ahead.
Yeah, Kaido from Healthcard here. Question about some of the previous slides where you mentioned this posts and story, how your comment was that, or statement that have less posts and more stories.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, some people have mentioned me that making a story or having a good, compelling story takes quite a lot of time, and it's gone for the next day. So it's like it's basically wasting your time and energy for something which is not reusable later. So, and another some people whom I follow social media have this kind of approach that less posting, but these posts are really like deep and long, basically some kind of like a study. So going in very detail what some kind of like topics. So what is your suggestion regarding this? Of course, it depends. Like, are you B2B or B2C? Who is this persona you are like approaching? But better results with less efforts and time spent.
That's a good question, actually. Yes, it really depends on which kind of sector you're aiming, if it's B2B or B2C. And it also really needs to be, decided whether your idea is something that can actually allow you to go in deep. Maybe this in deep will go too technical in details so that it actually doesn't have so much value in overall sense, only for specialists. And again, like there's so many details to be done with that. But for the story wise, I can disagree in some sense, because you can save those things in highlights. So you can actually revisit the stories as collections of highlights. And you can, save those things. For example, you have one, I don't know, event, you are making those stories, and you can save those to highlights, and afterwards, until forever and ever, everyone can see what you talked about that subject or that idea. So it comes down to how you are building your own profile, how you're going to use it. I would say today that yes, there is a standard on how to make a story. What's the quality standard in that sense? But people view stories with less criticism in that sense than they do posts. Like you said yourself, that the post has to be done well, in detail, going deep. Like that's huge work that you need to do. And it actually is everyone's own decision. Like, do I want to go into posts, or do I want to go to stories and save to highlights? What I can tell you from social media side is actually that by fact, I know that when you generate the new profile, for example, let's say to Instagram, the first 2, 3, 4 months, your organic numbers for posts will be higher, a lot more higher than they will be after 4 months. Then Instagram decreases your numbers of views in order to make you pay for advertising. But something about, stories has slipped through the filter, because the story reach is more or less the same height as it is in the beginning. The drop is slower. So I can bring you an example. When you do a good post, I had this case study from one profile that I was helping out. The total organic reach was around 7,000 profiles. After 4 months, it was down to 1,800 profiles. So the drop was around a bit less than 4 times, while the story reach initially was around 15 or 16,000 average. And afterwards, after half a year, it was down to 13,000 or 12,000. So the percentual drop was really, really much lower than it was for posts. And that's the reason that the algorithm or the AI is all the time, monitoring what kind of posts you are, stopping by to check what you comment, what you like. And afterwards, the algorithm even doesn't show you your post, even though it's done in quality, in detail, it just doesn't show up anymore. So that's the reason why they do less posts, and why, when it comes to stories, then a friend of mine said it in a good way. Stories are like addiction. You just swipe and swipe and swipe and swipe until it's the end. So basically, if you post a story, and if a person is in addiction, then it's an 80% chance that they will, click it, each and every story that they have, to see everything, including your one. And that's the reason why stories are highly valued more, because the reach organically is still somewhat the same that it should be, and the addiction to stories is quite big, actually. And this is also the reason why TikTok is right now booming like hell, because it's the swipe, it's infinity swiping, it never ends. So that means it's entertainment without an end. And that's what story is also. It basically has no end until you find the end. So here's we can talk about this for hours probably, but trying to put it in compact version. This is why I was saying that stories, work better in many cases.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just as we have some basically half of this still to go. Do you mention and go a little bit into suggestions like doing yourself or hiring agency for doing something? Will it come later? Some suggestions, or is it something for today or later?
I can cover it today if it's okay for everyone else, because again, like we can quickly jump over personas as well, as you will have the slides yourself. Then you can, revisit those and go through. But I guess this hiring an agency or doing yourself issue is something when generating a brand is of high importance, because there's never enough money in the beginning. At first, I guess for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 months, you can survive by yourself. But if your idea starts to grow, which means that if you already generate some traction, if you get some interest, I suggest to have someone coming in and helping you out. We have so many freelance designers on the market who are willing to do design work for, I wouldn't say cheap money, but still for quite a small amount of money. And having someone by your side who knows stuff a bit more than you do helps you save your time for those things which you do best. Because I always see that trying to manage absolutely everything at the end of the day means that it's really hard to get everything done in a reasonable timeline. For example, if you are trying to do design work, we have this lovely canva.com where you have templates, you can design, do stuff. People who don't have a sense of design actually can spend hours and hours doing simple things. If you pay, I don't know, 30 euros for a person who has done it before and can do it in a design touch, they can do it in half an hour. So now comes the question, like, would you rather give up 30 euros and have the thing done without having to worry yourself, or you will actually want to have hours of your own personal time spent under stuff which is not your forte? That's for me, it's the main question basically. And this is the reason why I always say that I understand that startups don't have enough money in the beginning. I totally understand it, but there comes the point where you kind of need to look into yourself and think like, okay, I'm struggling with those things. Maybe should I just, have someone come in and help me out, which means basically having someone, coming on board for a certain percentage of acquisition of your idea, which can help a lot. For example, when we're talking about IT solutions, yes, it's really good when you're a developer yourself and you can do everything by yourself, right? But if you have an idea, you need a website or something, and you don't have the money, then the obvious answer is having someone come in who has the expertise, who's interested in the idea and help you, move on the way. So,
well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So something I'd just like to add is that it's important to kind of multitask whoever you hire. Okay. So, and what I mean by this is that, like I don't have money for social media. I'm not doing anything except for LinkedIn right now. And the main thing is that I'm just trying to set a drum beat and be consistent. Maybe every 2 to 3 weeks, I try to have at least one post. That's the first thing. But the second thing is the way that it's styled and all these other things, this can all be given to you, or this can all be taken from the same person that you have designed your website or whatever. Like you whoever you hire, try to get as much out of them as possible, and make sure that what they give you can be broadly applied for you. You know, that's kind of a little thing that I learned, a lesson.
That's a good lesson that you learned, actually, because when I offer service under my agency, my main point of sales is actually saying that I'm not going to do only one thing for you. I'm going to generate a toolbox for marketing so you can utilize it in a various, complexity. And usually that's the thing that customers actually need right now. Before, it was maybe a bit more that when you went to a designer or maybe an agency and you asked for something, it was like, okay, one unit costs so much. Now I see that the customer and partner relationship should be a bit more, the customer asks for one thing, but the partner says, listen, hold up, I'm going to make two things for you for the same price, because I see you already, if we do this, I can, make small tweaks and you can get this thing covered as well. So it was a good advice to always kind of, map out how much you can get out of the person who you are hiring or a company who you are hiring, and understand yourself as well. Like, what might I need that maybe I can throw into the discussion and say, listen, I'm going to pay this amount, but I want those things as well. And usually for Estonians, let me just open the gallery view to see how many of those Estonians are going to smile right now. Estonians are afraid to ask, right? And negotiate.
I would say that's a Baltic trait. I would not say that's unique to Estonians.
Okay. I kind of always thought that the Estonians are the quiet ones who never want to negotiate anything. And like when someone tells the price, it's 500 euros, it's like, okay. It's never like 350. So negotiate. Like when you are, one thing is the multitasking, and the second thing is actually negotiation in most of the processes. If it's not for saving money, let it be for learning, because negotiation brings out different aspects of services and products that you didn't even know about. And it can be taken as an actual learning curve. Like, for example, when I've worked in an agency before, I used to, be accountable for all the profits and everything which went under the sales as well. So I kind of got the mentality that, like, when I ordered something, for example, a designer had to make something for me, and like the price was first like 1,500. I was like, okay. After half a year, I was like, can we make it 1,300 maybe? And the more you started to ask like that, they were like trying to explain why it costs so much. But the explanation which they give to you makes you smarter. And the next time when you order, you're like, let's make it 1,300 and let's leave those two things out, because I don't need those two things. So you can still save and you can learn. And this is like something which is really important when you generate the brands. Like, you can save money on every step and you can pay too much money in every step. So have to be smart. You have to negotiate, and you have to kind of, I would say brutally know your shit, but like you can't know everything. So this is the reason why negotiation kind of brings out certain things that you might not know even. But let's quickly jump through persona issues as well. Like, the simple version is basically man or woman, the age, and location, 3 aspects. That's enough to do initial targeting for sales or marketing. When you know it's a she, you know how they might react logically, if it's emotional, practical. When you know the age, you can already assume the approach to your service or the product. Like, what are they probably looking for? Let's say age 25 probably means that no kids. So benefits that actually can, be a big deal for couples with kids. There's no point in, offering those to a 25-year-old with probably no kids. And talent-based can already also tell you that there's higher income, probably might be living in an apartment, because city center usually has apartments, right? You can already, assume that might have a car, but probably a good assumption would be that uses public transport. And also you can already understand that they have a higher demand to quality probably, because when you're in, let's say in Tallinn, which is the capital, then you know that you have easier access to better quality services and products rather than on the countryside where you have to travel a bit more to get access to those. So the demanding part would be, accessible from that as well. This is, very overall given description. You can, by your own logic, think to any direction you want, and, think it from your own aspect, like from my idea side, what might this person of this age and this location be feeling and looking for. And when you go in detail, which usually means that going deep into Google Analytics or any insights panel that you might have, you can already start to discover whether they are with kids, because you can double check the interests and see if something pops up. You can understand what the interest might be in general, whether it's beauty, sports, health, cooking, whatever it might be. All of those analytics can give you that insight as well. You can also have a better assumption whether owns a car or doesn't own a car. You can already by region understand whether the average income might be lower or higher, living in the suburbs, in a house, in a flat. All of those details can be assumed. In detail, no one can provide you that, like in full detail, because that's against GDPR rules, right? Ooh, who's that? But in overall general, personas actually are a lot about gut feeling. You get some details from analytics, and then you get a lot of gut feeling that put other details in places, and then you A/B test those things to see if your first ads or your first sales pitches go to the right corner or not. Then you modify based on the feedback, and you can get a better understanding, like, okay, how am I going to do it next time? So for persona, why is it good for? It defines who the customer is, right? You can understand their preferences, and actually preferences are everything when it comes to sales and marketing. You can presume the expectation. You never know, but you can presume, and you can presume the need for any product or service. And persona really helps you to choose the right channels and messages for marketing actions, for example, and also for sales, because marketing usually leads to sales, or they go hand in hand in parallel as well. So this is a short description of such. Let's do a small practical test. Let's see if you know your idea enough to define a simple persona of both male and female person. And you need to actually bring out at least, let's say 3, but up to 5 details based on that. Yes, Yuri.
I wanted to ask if the main business is B2B, then who should we depict, or who is the persona in this case?
When you are talking about B2B, usually the decision maker in many cases is a typical stereotype. So try to depict that stereotype and define Mary and Mark through that.
Okay, thanks.
Does that sound like clear?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let's take 5 and come back to this. Okay. So let's continue, right? Marika, do you want to share your Mary?
Yes, I can. It's the woman, marketing manager, 35 years, live in city, and have 2 teenagers, a child, love to travel and be with the friends, and she's social and love to talk, brave, values time.
Okay, so you have a bit more than simple. You have quite detailed in that sense. So you know who you are going to target in LinkedIn. Going to stalk them. Alex.
Yeah, really don't have the kind of specific with the gender and something like that. So as we are B2B, I more define myself industries.
Okay.
So, so there are 4 industries that we are looking at. So energy, for example, automotive, electronics, and then it's also depending on which department they're working. So we're mostly, if it's a big company, we try to find out material scientist or the head of department or a coaching department specialist. If it's a smaller or average size company, then we try to talk with CTO.
Okay, so for B2B, basically what you did, you repathed it into structural definition. So, the department, the ranking in the department, and then you can also get the segmenting down to the person who you need actually from that place. But again, like there might be a pattern also when it comes to gender and something like that, because when you're talking about energy and automotive, then usually that's male dominant business probably, I guess.
As we're in Europe, it's very dangerous to talk this way.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree. It's maybe prevailing man, but it may change,
Okay.
And our Baltic countries are example where female having more at least in Latvia, female taking more managerial positions than men, which was quite surprising.
Most educated women in the world are in Latvia. So
yeah, exactly.
And this is the place when Alex has done it. Whoop, whoop. Hannah, you're in the corner enjoying the quiet there.
Hey. Also for the female?
Yeah.
Okay. So she's 40, HR manager, quite active social media user. She's probably with assistant background. She has 2 kids. She has higher education in either business administration, marketing, or in HR, for example. She's into HR KPIs, for example, employee turnover, satisfaction, basically keeping people happy. Also into teamwork or cooperation, and but she has this kind of practical sense, and she's also skeptical about new solutions.
Okay, that's pretty good. That also already gives you an understanding like what and how. Nikita, do you want to share something as well? Quest Q. Let's see. Quest 42, Nikita, that's you.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah. So we've been working on a couple of different profiles. I would say one of our the profile we're going at the initial stage is both male and female between 20 and 45 who are self-learners, and they actively pursuing their interests in learning new skills, especially in the STEM field, and who are also working with software that is helping them in their learning process. And this can be note-taking software, mind mappers, memory training software like digital flashcards, So specifically, what I was looking at is looking at subreddits that are where people who are self-learners gather and exchange different ways and methods that they use. And for example, some of the bigger ones have more than 800,000 users. So what I was thinking about is starting from there and engaging into conversation, describing how our solution can be used to enhance learning. And then starting to expand from this core audience into a wider one.
Okay, that's pretty good. Thank you. So
Thanks.
let's move forward. We don't have too much of this left, and that's the reason why that I didn't want to go too in deep. Otherwise, we would be talking here until, I don't know, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and I would be dead tired after that. So you wouldn't be hearing much more than mumbling, actually. So we did the test, right? So we have some data, and you have something to think about when you are generating your brand even more, or thinking about how to really, bring out the best in your brand. Now let's quickly go over the marketing channels. Everyone knows that the marketing channel is basically the first thing that pops into mind is social media, right? But actually you can use your email signature when you are sending out invoices. You can use the templates. When you are giving out physical checks, you can use those backgrounds to print something. Newsletters, everyone thinks that, oh, I need to have a huge database to send out newsletters. You actually don't. You need to have people who want to have information from you. So basically, yeah, that's something that I think you can, use for yourself as well. Print materials, stickers on cars. Stickers on cars back in the days was a huge trend. Like everyone was putting their own company logo on the back. I don't know why today it's been, also quite vanished. It's something you can use. It's cheap, and you drive around. If you drive around a lot, then actually that's something you can use to make yourself visible. So why not use it? That's my kind of idea to it. You can use, of course, social medias, which is something we talked quite a lot before. You can use paid ads. Paid ads, by the way, doesn't leave any trace on your post feed. So when you use paid ads on social medias, that doesn't leave a trace unless you post and then boost. So that's something you can use to A/B test quite a lot. If you don't want to show something on your feed, but you want to test out different marketing approaches, then you can do those things as well. Digital partner spaces actually means different banners. For example, if you have a solution that kes tahab aknad lahti teha?
We will never know. I have muted him.
We will never know. That's the fascination of Zoom. Daily life comes in without even telling you when it's coming in. Digital partner spaces basically is the fact that banners, different banners on blogs, forums, whatever it might be. It's pretty cheap actually, and you can use it to get quite a lot of traffic. And so most of the times people don't think about it, but it's a pretty good channel to use actually, if you choose it wisely. In some cases, you can get it basically for almost free. So that's a good thing to do. And when you grow bigger, like the unicorns that we have here right now, you can use outdoors, you can use print spaces in magazines, radios, TVs, ambience, a huge lot of things more. The idea was just to, quickly map out all of the channels for you to have it in front of your face, and you can have a slightly faster overview of what your options are when it comes to marketing channels. What I always try to say that when you choose channels, you really need to do three things basically. You have to define your existing channels, what I use today. You have to use the information from your persona details, and then try to put those two in parallel and analyze like, okay, I can see that my customer is moving here. My persona is like here. I have a profile there. I should put effort in those channels. So wherever the channels map together, try to actually use those places as much as possible. and put focus on those channels where you can see you can manage and bring out the best of your brand. That's the core. Like I always, not always, I'm lying right now. I sometimes take this in front of me when I'm planning stuff in order to, remind myself that what I should do and in what order I should do. So defining existing, using personas, and the middle ground is analyzing between of those. So that's the order in which you should actually do those things. Social media wise, before we covered something, and I thought I would bring out quickly some details. This is Estonia wise, this is 2019, but still it gives you some kind of perspective, and they don't kind of, as Facebook numbers are dropping in a huge pace, then the actual new numbers are not appearing anytime soon. But overall, for example, Estonia has what, 1.32 million people, and 750,000 of those use social media. So that's 57% of the overall population, which is pretty big number. And if you think that 88% uses internet on a daily basis, then you totally get the idea why you should, invest in social media and in digital media, and why it's important to be consistent, have a solid foundation, and really build your stuff up like it was the end of the day, and you need to get those things right, because you actually do need to get those things right. And around 30,000 people per year, add up to those numbers. Right now, I guess over the course of the 2 last years, we can see around 80 to 100,000 per year, because Corona has shifted the information towards internet. And so, yeah, you need to kind of, transition numbers a bit more to get the overall understanding for nowadays. Yes, we have a hands up. It was Q42, right?
Yes, thanks, Argo. So I just wanted to ask you a quick question. When we start to talk about social media, digital marketing, and even taking the example you're giving right now. So I imagine you're a business based in Estonia, but you start to expand into other Baltic countries. So how would you handle different languages question? Like, would you just stick to English, or would you hire different people in case you don't have a speaker of all 3 languages, handling outreach in different languages, and then say if you want to expand into other European markets?
I actually today had the same question coming up. I'm doing marketing management in a company who has around 40,000+ in Facebook followers and around 14,000 in Instagram. Overall revenue 20 million plus yearly. And we have the same issue. We are going to expand towards Scandinavia. And the big question is, what do? Do we shift from right now Estonian to English, which would be somewhat, funny. Like today we are posting Estonian, tomorrow it's like, we're English, which is a huge step to take when we are talking about, building up the content in the web as well. But what I have seen a lot, and I guess would be the best practice, again, like the details are so unique for each and every business, but I guess the 80-20 rule would be that you generate a different profile for each country and try to manage it in local language, because when we talk about Scandinavia, like if you start building a brand from scratch in English, then keep it in English. If you already do something in local language, then basically it's kaput. You need to do different languages probably, unless you're in a really, really early stage, then you can still shift some stuff. But if you're already, half the way there, you already have, let's say, a couple of thousand followers, and you have consistent content in local language, then the shift might be a pretty tough challenge to overtake. So for my case, we are too big right now to make the shift. So I guess analysis wise, I will probably do company underline FE, company underline SE. So each and every country would have its own, and probably I would hire a interpreter to actually translate all the stuff and duplicate the content into local language. So that gives me also the flexibility to add content which is relevant to local holidays or whatever it is. Because remembering local holidays in some cases can be really, really important. For example, Latvians like their name days, right? Am I correct? It's a huge thing. But in Estonia, like when someone says, listen, today is your name day, like, what? So it's a different shift in cultures and values. So again, having different profiles gives you the option of, you know, playing around with marketing. But it's really, you know, a personal thing. Probably each and every company should look at it under their own belt and think like, okay, this works for me and I can manage this, because not everyone has the, you know, the financial possibilities to hire people to translate and do stuff. So yeah, probably if you're starting, you can start in English, go with it, see how it goes. And you can do some stories in Estonian or in Latvian in between. No one can say that, listen, you can't do it. Because in social media, in some cases, yes, there are some unwritten rules, but story-wise, you can do anything probably. So you can play around with it.
Got it. Thanks very much for the detailed response.
Cool. So let's take the final steps here. Again, let's go over the things. Define, use details, analyze, right? It goes for each and everything. So take out persona, for example, as a word, and just try to think like, I will define my brand, my ideas, my values, my tone of voice. Then try to use information that you have, whether it's persona or something else that you have already gotten back from the market from the customers. Try to link those things, analyze it through, where are the touch points, and then make decisions based upon that. There's no point in making emotional decisions and then, like, you know, finding out in 2 weeks or 2 months, like, oh, damn, that wasn't a good decision. Should have thought through that one before analyzed it, or analyzing is kind of key in the beginning in every sense, for me at least. So sales channels, skipping some parts of this, you can use all your marketing channels as sales channels, but you don't have to. And it's really a touch and go place basically where to be. You can use, you know, the idea that marketing and sales go hand in hand, but usually the logic is that marketing directs sales into a different channel. Yes, you have a shop option in Instagram and in Facebook as well, but as much as I've seen conversion rates from my own experience and from other people's experience, the conversion is low. So better direct it to the web and sell it through a web shop. That's better, and that's easier, and it converts better as well. So if you can use the same platforms and places for sales where you market, that's good. But usually the logic is you direct marketing to sales on a different platform. So that's the logic how it goes. And when you are building something of an idea where you sell product or service, and you have a possibility to onboard or, you know, acquisite on a web page, then I kind of actually recommend to do it, because what I see is that when the person doesn't get enough information, which usually happens on social media, then they leave. They don't do the transaction checkout. But what's good on a web page is that you can get so much additional information, from information about the product or the service, about you, some visuals to go with it. So the feeling that I can trust this brand is higher on a web page. So if you want to do sales, I would still go for 80% that you can do it on a web page. 20% is that you can use the alternatives if you have such available. And when we were talking last time, I was saying the same things. Analyze, target, which means you analyze and you really understand where the focus points and the touch points are. So you target it the right way and do it consistently, which means marketing and brand awareness, or brand, you know, putting the brand out there cannot be a one-time only project. It has to be done consistently. So I understand that you need to generate revenue, but revenue doesn't come easy when you don't show yourself out there. So the easiest way to show you an example would be if you don't invest in Google Ads, for example, then your traffic would be probably 10 times smaller versus when you invest in Google Ads and you get a lot of more traffic in, which means possibility of higher revenue as well. So investing in consistency brings back the results at an end game as well. And that's it from me this time. How was it? Nikita, you're up first. I can see you on my front screen. So you're the first one who will get the popped question. Do you have any?
Thanks a lot. It was great. And you've touched on a number of specific points that we were considering and going back and forth on how to better proceed. So much appreciated. Thank you.
So what I can throw up, Jana, as an idea and for everyone, if you would like to do an open session of Q&A, like I can see you have so many various questions about marketing and how to do stuff and how to think about stuff. So we can throw up an idea for the future to have an open Q&A where you can probably send some questions ahead so I can have a look at those, understand like where it's going, and we can openly discuss all together those things through, because I guess like something which you heard today, what Kaido asked or what Nikita asked, those things are something you can use for each and every one. So we can play with those questions, we can talk in an open forum, and at the end of the day, I guess there's a lot of learning to do for each and every one. I can get a better insight how you guys are thinking. Maybe I can use that information for my own purposes in work as well. And you can get some, relief in sense that you get some actual responses and replies to the questions which you have urgently right now, and you are feeling like I need some response to that just to understand if I'm on the right path or not. So if that sounds nice, let us know in Slack and we can organize it in sometime near future. Okay? Nice. So guys, thank you. This is it from my side, and Jana wants to play some music. I can see she's smiling already.
Now I suppose everyone will find his own music for the evening. So nice to see you again. It was very nice to see you again, and hope to see you tomorrow. And I suppose on Friday, when there will be my workshop, we can already try out some Q&A. I don't know, Argo, if you will be available, so we can see what how we are doing.
Yeah, so maybe we can agree on this. You can hit us up with some questions, and you can directly, let's say, look us up and ask some questions. So we can manage to answer those on Slack, or we can see a bigger overflow. We can do it on Zoom as well. I guess this could be the answer to it, right?
Yes.
Nice.
So have a nice evening, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Great session, guys. Thanks.
Yep, Argo is great.
The greatest. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.